The silent approach. The alarm systems across monitoring station Kyvex 9 had been screaming for the past 6 hours. Senior Officer Thrace of the Vraxian Empire stood before the main sensor array, his 3 eyes narrowing as he studied the data scrolling across the holographic display. His scaled hands trembled slightly, though he would never admit it to his subordinates. "Report," Thrace commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had served in the Vraxian military for 30 cycles. Junior Technician Vela approached, her movements hesitant. "Sir, the contact is still approaching. Current speed registers at 0.97 light speed. It has not deviated from its course in 6 hours and 14 minutes. Thrace felt a cold sensation spreading through his chest. In all his years monitoring the outer territories, he had never encountered anything like this. The vessel had appeared at the edge of their sensor range like a ghost materializing from the void. No jump signature, no engine trail, nothing that would indicate a normal faster-than-light arrival. It was simply there, and it was moving toward them with terrifying purpose. "Have we identified the vessel?" Thrace asked, though he already knew the answer. "Negative, sir. The energy signature matches nothing in our database. The ship is not broadcasting any identification codes. It is not responding to our hails on any frequency." Vela paused, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Sir, I have never seen anything move like this. The power readings are off every scale we have." Thrace turned away from the display, his mind racing back 3 months to the incident that had changed everything. The human colony ship New Dawn had entered Vraxian territory without authorization. The Vraxian High Command had been clear in their directives. No unauthorized vessels were permitted in their space. The Empire had sent 3 destroyers to intercept. The humans had tried to explain. They said their navigation systems had malfunctioned. They said they were civilians, families seeking a new home on a distant world. They had begged for safe passage, promised to leave immediately, offered everything they had in exchange for mercy. High Command had given the order anyway. The 3 destroyers had opened fire without warning. The New Dawn, a vessel designed for transport and colonization, had no weapons, no shields capable of withstanding military-grade firepower. It had taken less than 4 minutes to reduce the ship to debris. 12,000 humans had died that day. Men, women, children, scientists and farmers, engineers and artists, all of them erased in a brief flash of violence. The Vraxian Empire had declared it a necessary action, a message to all species that their territory was inviolable. The High Command had celebrated the destruction as a demonstration of strength. But Thrace had watched the sensor recordings. He had seen the desperate transmissions from the human ship in its final moments. He had heard the screams. And now, staring at this mysterious contact approaching their station, he felt something he had not experienced in decades. He felt genuine fear. "Sir," Vela called out, pulling him from his thoughts. "The contact is broadcasting something." "Put it through," Thrace ordered. The bridge fell silent as the transmission played. It was not complex. No speeches, no demands, no threats. Just a single sentence repeated in perfect Vraxian language, the accent flawless, the tone absolutely devoid of emotion. "You took our innocence. We are coming." The message ended. The bridge remained silent for several long moments. Every officer present understood the implication. This was not a diplomatic vessel. This was not a merchant ship lost in space. This was something else entirely. "How long until it reaches us?" Thrace asked quietly. Vela checked her console. "At current speed, approximately 8 hours, sir." 8 hours. Thrace activated his communication link to Vraxian Fleet Command. The holographic image of Admiral Corthan materialized before him, the Admiral's expression one of irritation at being contacted. "This had better be important, Thrace. I am in the middle of a strategic meeting. Admiral, we have an unknown contact approaching our position at near light speed. It is broadcasting a message that appears to reference the New Dawn incident. I believe this may be a human vessel." Corthan's irritation transformed into something resembling amusement. "A human vessel? The humans barely have interstellar capability. Their largest warship is smaller than one of our patrol craft. You are concerned about humans?" "Sir, this vessel is unlike anything we have encountered." "Its speed alone suggests technology far beyond what we believed the humans possessed. Its energy signature is completely unknown. And the message, sir, they are coming for revenge." The Admiral waved a dismissive hand. "Revenge? The humans are weak, sentimental. They waste their resources on art and philosophy instead of military might. Even if this is a human ship, which I doubt, what threat could it possibly pose? Admiral, I recommend we scramble defensive forces to this sector immediately. Something about this contact feels wrong. Corthan studied Thrace for a moment, then sighed. Very well. I will dispatch 3 battlecruisers to your location. They should arrive within 5 hours. If this mystery ship proves hostile, they will handle it. But mark my words, Thrace, if this turns out to be nothing, you will be assigned to waste processing duty for the next 10 cycles. The transmission ended. Thrace stood alone on the bridge, staring at the sensor display. The red dot representing the approaching vessel continued its steady, unwavering advance. 3 battlecruisers. Against most threats, that would be more than sufficient. The Vraxian Empire had never lost a direct military engagement. Their technology was proven, their tactics refined through centuries of conflict. But as Thrace watched that red dot move closer, he could not shake the feeling that 3 battlecruisers would not be enough. The hours passed with agonizing slowness. The mysterious vessel maintained its speed and course, ignoring every attempt at communication. The Vraxian battlecruisers arrived and took up defensive positions around the monitoring station. Their commanders were confident, even eager for engagement. They viewed this as an opportunity to demonstrate Vraxian superiority once again. Captain Drelak commanded the lead cruiser, a massive vessel bristling with weapons. He opened a channel to Thrace. Senior officer, we are in position. Our sensors confirm your readings. This vessel is indeed unusual, but it is still just one ship. One ship against 3 battlecruisers. The outcome is certain. Captain, I urge caution. We do not know what weapons this ship may possess. Drelak laughed. Weapons? Thrace, we have enough firepower here to destroy a small moon. Whatever this ship is, it will be reduced to atoms when we engage. Prepare to witness Vraxian might. The contact entered visual range 30 minutes later. Thrace had the main view screen adjusted to show the approaching vessel, and what he saw made his blood run cold. The ship was enormous, easily 3 times the size of a Vraxian battlecruiser. It moved through space like a predator stalking prey. Its hull was a deep matte black that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The design was unlike anything in Vraxian records. Sharp angles and aggressive lines gave it an appearance of barely contained violence. Strange markings covered its surface, symbols in human writing that Thrace could not decipher. But it was the name painted across the bow that caught his attention. One word in massive letters written in both human script and Vraxian translation. Reckoning. All ships. Captain Drelak's voice came through the communication system. Prepare to engage. Target all weapons on that vessel. Fire on my command. Thrace wanted to shout a warning, to tell them to wait, to try communication one more time. But military protocol was clear. He was a monitoring officer, not a fleet commander. He had no authority to countermand Drelak's orders. All ships, Drelak continued. Fire! The 3 battlecruisers unleashed everything they had. Missiles streaked through the void, their engines burning bright trails against the darkness. Energy beams lanced out in multiple colors. Kinetic cannons fired rounds that moved at relativistic speeds. The combined firepower represented the destructive capability of one of the most advanced military forces in the known galaxy. The barrage struck the human ship directly. Explosions bloomed across its surface like deadly flowers. Energy discharges lit up the surrounding space. For a moment, the reckoning was completely obscured by the maelstrom of destruction. Thrace held his breath, waiting to see debris, waiting for confirmation that the threat had been eliminated. The explosions cleared. The human warship emerged completely undamaged, its shields invisible until struck, now glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Not a single mark marred its black hull. Impossible, Drelak whispered over the open channel. Continue firing. All weapons. The Vraxian ships opened fire again, pouring everything they had into the assault. Minutes passed. The Reckoning's shields grew brighter with each impact but showed no signs of weakening. Then the human ship moved. It accelerated forward with impossible speed, closing the distance to the nearest Vraxian cruiser in seconds. The Reckoning fired its first weapon. A beam of pure white light touched the Vraxian vessel for less than a second. The battlecruiser simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris field. One moment it was there, a massive warship with a crew of 4,000. The next moment there was only empty space and a fading glow where matter had been converted to energy. Retreat, Drelak screamed. All ships retreat to the station. Emergency jump coordinates. The remaining two cruisers tried to flee. The reckoning targeted the second vessel. This time the weapon was different. A ripple in space itself seemed to pass over the ship. The cruiser aged thousands of years in an instant. Its hull corroded and crumbled. Its systems failed. Its crew died of old age before they could scream. The ancient wreck drifted silently, a tomb of rust and decay. Captain Drelak's ship was the last remaining. He was frantically entering jump coordinates when the reckoning moved again, positioning itself directly in the cruiser's path. A third weapon activated. Thousands of small objects erupted from the human ship, too small and fast for sensors to track individually. They swarmed over the Vraxian vessel like a plague. Thrace watched in horror as the battlecruiser began to come apart. Not explode. Come apart. Piece by piece, section by section, the ship was being disassembled by machines too small to see. He could hear Drelak screaming over the communication channel, could hear the crew's desperate final moments as the nanomachines consumed everything in their path. Then, silence, 3 battlecruisers gone, destroyed, in less than 10 minutes by a single human vessel using weapons that should not exist. The reckoning turned toward the monitoring station. It moved closer, stopping just outside weapons range. Not that weapons would matter, Thrace realized. Nothing they had could touch that ship. A new transmission came through. This time it was not the simple message from before. A holographic image appeared on the bridge. A human, tall with graying hair and eyes that held an ancient sorrow. He wore a simple black uniform with no decorations except a single patch on his chest, an image of a broken ship falling through stars. "I am Captain Marcus Chen of the Terran vessel Reckoning," the human said, his voice calm and measured. "3 months ago, your empire destroyed the colony ship New Dawn. 12,000 of my people died. Among them were my wife, my daughter, and my granddaughter. They were going to start a new life on a world far from here. They had never harmed anyone. They were innocent." The human paused, and Thrace saw tears running down his face even as his expression remained controlled. "Your leaders called their deaths necessary, a message to the galaxy. Well, we have a message of our own. For every innocent human life you took, we have built a weapon. For every child who died screaming in the void, we have created a new way to bring destruction. You wanted to demonstrate your strength. Now we will demonstrate ours." Captain Chen leaned forward, his eyes boring into the camera. "This is your only warning. The Vraxian Empire has 7 days to surrender unconditionally. You will submit to human authority. You will dismantle your military. You will pay reparations for the lives you took. If you refuse, we will come to your homeworld. We will come to your colonies. We will come to every station, every outpost, every ship that flies under your banner, and we will show you what happens to those who murder innocents and call it strength." The transmission ended. The reckoning hung in space for another moment, then turned and began moving away. It accelerated to impossible speeds and vanished from their sensors in seconds, leaving only the debris of 3 battlecruisers and a monitoring station full of terrified Vraxians. Thrace activated his emergency communication link to High Command. Admiral Corthan appeared, his expression annoyed. "Thrace, what is so urgent that you interrupt me again? Did your mysterious ship turn out to be a cargo hauler?" "Admiral," Thrace said quietly, "the humans are coming, and I do not think anything can stop them." The reckoning arrives. The Vraxian High Council chamber had never been designed for panic, but panic filled it now like a living thing. Supreme Chancellor Voxen sat upon the elevated central throne, his scaled hands gripping the armrests with enough force to leave marks in the metal. Around him, the 12 members of the High Council argued with each other in voices that grew louder with each passing moment. 7 days had passed since the reckoning had delivered its ultimatum. 7 days of frantic military preparation, desperate diplomatic outreach, and growing terror as reports came in from across Vraxian space. The humans were not bluffing. They were coming. "We should surrender," Council Member Thessa said, her voice cutting through the noise. "We have seen what their ship can do. 3 battlecruisers destroyed in minutes. We cannot fight technology like that." "Surrender?" Admiral Corthan slammed his fist on the council table. "The Vraxian Empire does not surrender. We have never surrendered in our entire history. We are the dominant military power in this sector." "Were," Thessa corrected quietly. "We were the dominant power, until we killed 12,000 humans and they decided to show us what they are truly capable of." Supreme Chancellor Voxen raised one hand, demanding silence. The council chamber quieted, though the tension remained thick in the air. "Admiral Corthan," What is the status of our defensive preparations? Corthan stood, activating a holographic display that showed the Vraxian homeworld of Vraxis Prime. Around the planet, thousands of ships were positioned in layered defensive formations. Orbital weapons platforms hung in synchronized patterns. Planetary shields glowed with active energy. "We have assembled the largest military force in our history," Corthan said, his voice carrying forced confidence. 1,200 warships, including 16 dreadnoughts. 400 orbital defense platforms. Planetary shields capable of withstanding a sustained bombardment from an entire fleet. Ground-based weapons batteries covering every major city. If the humans come here, they will face the full might of the Vraxian Empire. "And you believe this will be sufficient?" Voxen asked. Corthan hesitated for just a moment. "Supreme Chancellor, I would be lying if I said I was certain. The technology displayed by the human vessel is beyond anything we understand. But what choice do we have? If we surrender, we admit weakness. Every species in the galaxy will know that the Vraxian Empire can be threatened into submission. Our authority, everything we have built, will crumble." Thessa stood, her eyes flashing with anger. "And if we fight and lose? How many Vraxian lives are you willing to sacrifice for pride?" "As many as necessary to preserve our civilization," Corthan shot back. "Would you have us bow to these humans? A species we considered primitive just months ago. A species we underestimated," Thessa corrected. "A species we attacked without provocation. A species whose civilians we murdered. Perhaps we deserve what is coming." The chamber erupted in shouting again. Some council members supported Thessa's position, arguing for immediate surrender. Others stood with Corthan, demanding that the Vraxian Empire stand and fight. Voxen listened to it all, his 3 eyes closed, his mind racing through possibilities. The truth was that he had already made his decision. The Vraxian Empire would not surrender, could not surrender. Their entire culture was built on military strength and the projection of power. To submit to human demands would be to destroy everything they were. But there was something else, something he had not shared with the Council. 3 days ago, Vraxian intelligence had intercepted a transmission from the human homeworld, Earth. The message had been encrypted, but their best codebreakers had eventually cracked it. What they found had shaken Voxen to his core. The reckoning was not alone. Humanity had not spent the past 3 months building a single ship. They had built 12 of them. 12 warships, each one as powerful as the reckoning. Each one named for a concept that meant something to human. Culture, vengeance, justice, retribution, wrath, fury, judgment, punishment, nemesis, retaliation, payback, comeuppance, and the largest of them all, a ship that dwarfed even the reckoning named simply Consequence. 12 ships built in 3 months. The industrial capacity and technological advancement that represented was staggering. The humans had not been primitive. They had been peaceful. There was a difference. A crucial difference that the Vraxian Empire had failed to understand until it was too late. "Enough," Voxen commanded, his voice carrying authority that silenced the chamber immediately. "We will not surrender. Admiral Corthan, you will command the defense of Vraxis Prime. Use every resource at your disposal. Councilmember Thessa, you will oversee civilian evacuations to the underground shelters. If the worst happens, I want our population protected." "And you, Supreme Chancellor?" Thessa asked quietly. "What will you do?" Voxen stood, his ceremonial robes falling around him like a shroud. "I will do what every leader must do in times of crisis. I will face the consequences of our actions." The council session ended. Voxen returned to his private chambers high in the Capitol Tower. Through the massive windows he could see Vraxis Prime stretching below him. Beautiful cities filled with millions of lives. Cultural centers that had stood for thousands of years. Families going about their daily routines, unaware of the doom approaching from the stars. He had ordered the attack on the new dawn. The final authorization had required his personal code. He had read the reports about the human colony ship. He had seen the desperate pleas for mercy, and he had entered his code anyway because that was what strong leaders did. They made hard decisions. They protected their territory. They sent messages that ensured compliance. Now the humans were sending a message of their own. Voxen activated his private communication terminal. "Computer, show me the current location of the human vessels." A star map appeared showing Vraxian space. 12 red dots moved through their territory like drops of blood spreading through water. They were taking different routes, destroying every military installation they encountered. Vraxian ships that engaged were simply erased. Outposts were reduced to debris. Defense stations ceased to exist, and they were all converging on Vraxis Prime. Estimated time until arrival? Foxen asked. 3 hours, 14 minutes, the computer responded in its emotionless tone. 3 hours. Voxen turned away from the display and poured himself a drink from a bottle he had been saving for a special occasion. The liquid burned as it went down, but it did nothing to warm the cold spreading through his chest. He had started a war. He realized that now. The destruction of the new dawn had not been a demonstration of strength. It had been the opening shot in a conflict that the Vraxian Empire could not win. The hours passed. Voxen stood at his window watching the sky. Admiral Corthan sent regular updates. The fleet was in position. Weapons were charged. Shields were at maximum. Every soldier was ready to give their lives for the Empire. It would not be enough. Voxen knew this with absolute certainty, but they would fight anyway because that was what warriors did. The first sign of the human arrival was subtle. Sensors detected massive energy buildups at the edge of the system. Then the 12 ships appeared, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect synchronization. They arranged themselves in a formation around Vraxis Prime, each ship positioned at equal distances, creating a ring of death around the planet. Admiral Corthan's voice came through the communication system, broadcast to every screen across the planet. All forces, this is Admiral Corthan. The enemy has arrived. Remember what we fight for. Remember our strength. Remember that we are Vraxian. For the Empire, the fleet opened fire. 1,200 warships unleashed their weapons simultaneously. The space around Vraxis Prime lit up with the brightest display of destructive force in galactic history. Every weapon the Vraxian Empire had ever developed was employed. Missiles, energy beams, kinetic projectiles, plasma torpedoes, quantum disruptors. Enough firepower to sterilize a dozen worlds. The human ships simply absorbed it all. Their shields glowed brighter with each impact, but not a single vessel showed any sign of damage. Then the humans responded. The 12 ships fired as one, and Voxen watched from his tower as the Vraxian fleet began to die. The weapons were different than those used by the Reckoning. New technologies, new ways to bring destruction. Some ships were pulled into miniature black holes that appeared and disappeared in seconds, crushing the vessels into singularities. Others were hit by weapons that caused their own power cores to overload, turning the ships into brief new stars. Still others simply came apart as their molecular bonds were disrupted, scattering into clouds of component atoms. The orbital defense platforms fared no better. They fired their massive cannons until the weapons overheated and failed, but every shot simply made the human shield stronger. Then the platforms themselves were targeted. Most were destroyed instantly. A few were left intact but lifeless, their crews aged to dust by temporal weapons that made seconds into centuries. Voxen activated his communication link to Corthan. The Admiral appeared on screen, his face covered in blood from a head wound, his command bridge burning around him. Admiral, order a retreat. Get whatever ships you can away from here. Supreme Chancellor, we cannot retreat. If we abandon the home world, if you stay, every ship will be destroyed and it will make no difference. Save what you can. That is an order. Corthan stared at him for a moment, then nodded. It has been an honor serving the Empire, Supreme Chancellor. The honor was mine, Admiral. Now go. The transmission ended. Voxen watched through his window as the surviving Vraxian ships, perhaps 200 out of 1,200, broke formation and fled. The human vessels let them go. They were not interested in ships that ran. They were here for the planet itself. The 12 warships moved into a tighter formation around Vraxis Prime. The planetary shields were still active, glowing like a bubble of energy around the world. Those shields had been designed to withstand anything. They were powered by the planet's own core, drawing on geothermal energy that could sustain them indefinitely. The humans tested them with a series of targeted strikes. Beams of energy that would have vaporized mountains struck the shields and dissipated. The shields held. For a moment, Voxen felt a spark of hope. Perhaps the defenses would be enough. Perhaps the planet could be saved. Then the ship named Consequence, the largest of the human warships, moved to the front of the formation. It was massive beyond anything Voxen had imagined. Easily 5 times the size of a Vraxian dreadnought, it looked like a floating city of weapons and armor. On its hull, painted in letters large enough to see from orbit, were words in both human script and Vraxian translation. For the new dawn, for the 12,000. For the innocent, the consequence charged a single weapon. Energy gathered at the bow of the ship, building in intensity until it outshone the system's sun. The other 11 ships added their power to it, streams of energy flowing from each vessel into the consequence, feeding the weapon with the combined output of 12 impossible engines. Voxen knew what was coming. He had seen the recordings from the monitoring station. He had read the reports about what human weapons could do, and he knew that nothing, not their shields, not their defenses, not their pride or their history or their military might, would be enough to stop what was about to happen. The weapon fired. A beam of pure white energy struck the planetary shields. For exactly 3 seconds, the shields held against the impossible force. Then they failed, catastrophically. The feedback from the collapse wiped out every power grid on the planet simultaneously, but the weapon did not stop. The beam continued down through the atmosphere, through the clouds, and struck the surface of Vraxis Prime. It did not destroy the planet. The humans were not trying to kill everyone. They were trying to send a message. The beam carved a line across the primary continent, the one that held the capital city and the greatest concentration of Vraxian civilization. A line of destruction 3 kilometers wide and 500 kilometers long. Everything in that path simply ceased to exist. Cities that had stood for millennia vanished. Historical sites were erased. Millions of lives ended in an instant. Then the weapon stopped. The beam cut off. The 12 human ships held their positions, waiting. Voxen stood at his window, staring at the smoke and fire rising from the wounded planet below. His communication terminal was filled with emergency broadcasts, casualty reports, damage assessments, cries for help from survivors trapped in collapsed buildings at the edge of the destruction zone. A new transmission came through, not encrypted, not directed at him specifically, broadcast to every device on Vraxis Prime and every Vraxian ship within range. The face of Captain Marcus Chen appeared. "People of the Vraxian Empire," he said, his voice carrying across the planet. "We are not here to destroy you. We are here to teach you a lesson that you forced upon us. You believed you were strong. You believed your military might gave you the right to take innocent lives. You were wrong." Chen paused, and Voxen could see the pain in the human's eyes even through the screen. "We have just demonstrated that we could destroy your entire planet. We could have wiped out every city, every military base, every trace of your civilization. But we did not. Because unlike you, we do not target the innocent. The destruction you see was aimed at the capital, at the government district, at the military command centers, at those responsible for the decision to destroy the new dawn." The camera pulled back, showing the bridge of the consequence. Other humans were visible, all wearing the same black uniforms, all with the same patch showing the broken colony ship. "Your Supreme Chancellor gave the order to kill 12,000 civilians. Your admirals carried out that order. Your government celebrated it as a victory. They are the ones we hold responsible. The civilians of Vraxis Prime, the families and workers and artists and teachers, they did not choose this war. We will not punish them for the sins of their leaders." Chen leaned forward, his expression hardening. "But make no mistake, this is what mercy looks like from humanity. We have shown you that we have the power to end your civilization. We have proven that your military cannot stop us. Now you have a choice. Your government can surrender unconditionally and face justice for their crimes, or we will return, and next time we will not show mercy." The transmission ended. Voxen stood in silence, processing what he had just heard. The humans had the power to destroy everything. They had demonstrated it clearly. But they had chosen restraint. They had carved a line of destruction through the capital precisely, calculated to hit government and military targets while minimizing civilian casualties. It was more mercy than the Vraxian Empire had shown the new dawn. Voxen activated his communication link to what remained of the High Council. Most of them were dead, killed when the human weapon carved through the government district, but a few had survived, including Thessa. "Council member Thessa," Voxen said quietly, "I am issuing the surrender order. Contact the human vessels and inform them that the Vraxian Empire submits to their terms." Thessa appeared on screen. She was covered in dust, standing in what looked like a damaged bunker. "Supreme Chancellor, are you certain?" "Look at our world, Thessa. Look at what we brought upon ourselves. We murdered innocents and called it strength. The humans have shown us what real strength looks like. They had the power to kill billions and chose to kill millions instead. They are better than us. Perhaps they always were. What will happen to you? Thessa asked softly. Voxen smiled sadly. I will face the consequences of my actions. It is what leaders are supposed to do. Draft the surrender. Include my confession. I authorize the attack on the New Dawn. I will accept full responsibility. Supreme Chancellor, do it, Thessa, and do it quickly. Every moment we delay is another moment our people suffer. End this war. Learn from it. Make sure future generations understand the cost of cruelty. The transmission ended. Voxen walked to his window one last time, looking out at the burning planet. In the distance, he could see the 12 human warships still holding their formation. Silent. Waiting. 12 monuments to human grief transformed into human fury. He thought about the colony ship, New Dawn, about the families aboard, the children, the dreams they had carried with them into the void. He thought about how they must have felt in those final moments, watching Vraxian missiles approach, knowing there was no escape, and he understood finally what the humans had learned. That peace was not weakness, that restraint was not the same as inability, that a civilization could be gentle and still possess the capacity for terrible violence. The humans had been peaceful not because they were weak, but because they chose to be. The Vraxian Empire had mistaken that choice for vulnerability. It had been a fatal error. Hours later, when the human Marines arrived to take him into custody, Voxen went willingly. He saw Captain Chen among them, the man who had lost his family, the man who had built weapons from grief. Captain Chen, Voxen said quietly, I want you to know that I understand what I took from you. I understand that nothing I say can change what happened, but I want you to know that I am sorry, truly sorry. Chen stared at him for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Sorry does not bring them back. Sorry does not undo what you did, but it is a start. You will face trial. You will answer for your crimes. And maybe someday your people will learn from this. As Voxen was led away, he looked back at his planet one last time. The fires were being brought under control. Medical teams were rushing to help the wounded. Vraxians were beginning the long process of rebuilding, and in orbit the 12 human warships remained. Not as conquerors, but as guardians, making sure the surrender held. Making sure the lesson was learned. The Vraxian Empire had wanted to send a message about strength. Instead, they had received one. True strength was not the ability to destroy. It was the wisdom to know when to stop. It was the restraint to show mercy even when vengeance was deserved. It was the capacity to build weapons that could end worlds and then choose not to use them. Humanity had learned this lesson through tragedy, through the loss of 12,000 innocent lives, through grief that transformed into determination. Now the galaxy would learn it too. The age of civilizations throwing their weight around without consequence was over. The humans had emerged from their sorrow not as victims but as arbiters. They would not police the galaxy, but neither would they allow another New Dawn. Somewhere in the void, other species watched and understood. The humans were no longer prey. They were no longer primitives to be dismissed. They were a force that demanded respect, not through aggression, but through the terrible certainty that they could and would defend the innocent. And across human space, from Earth to the smallest colony, people mourned the New Dawn and honored those who had died. They had not been forgotten. Their deaths had been transformed into a shield that would protect countless others. In the end, the Vraxian Empire had taught humanity an important lesson. That in this vast and often cruel galaxy, the only way to ensure peace was to be strong enough that no one dared to break it. Not through conquest, but through the clear demonstration that the cost of cruelty was simply too high. The age of humanity had begun. Not with a whimper, but with a reckoning.